Welcome back to the King's Corner, the place for all things Bethesda. I am the KingFanMan. Today I was working on a Fallout 76 video for you guys, the Scary Places video, and it's going to be a good one. And the Andrew Reiner article from Game Informer dropped. So I dropped what I was doing immediately and started looking at it for you guys. So let's jump right in because there's some good things in it and I want to show them to you right now. It is a rather large article, so I will leave a link in the description below. And of course, we're just going to hit the highlights. Now, most of the article goes over a lot of what we already knew, and it's kind of like what Todd Howard said about the game itself. It is 80% the Fallout that everyone is used to, and it's 20% really different. Well, that's kind of like the article. The article is 80 to 90% of what we already knew about Fallout 76, and then 20 to 10% of what we didn't know. The first thing that really stood out to me is what they said about communicating with people trying to give us quests. He said the big difference between Fallout 76 and the other games in the series is you don't engage in conversation with most of the NPCs. You still hear what they have to say, but you don't have dialogue choices to steer the conversation or mission in a different way. Now, that's very interesting. What we do find out later on in the article is there's only two ways of conversation in Fallout 76. And I guess this is something we haven't really thought about. You have the emoji wheel where you have the pictures where you can conversate with other players, and then you're going to have the audio headset. As far as talking to robots and the NPCs in the game, you're not going to have the multiple choices like we're used to in Fallout games. So that's going to be something huge to get used to, and that is a huge change, and that is very new news as far as, well, it's just new news. Now, he does talk about the main quest, and the main quest starts with the Overseer. Being as the Overseer is the jumping off point, he says, the Overseer, you will emerge from the vault, you will receive a transmission from the Overseer. She left before you, she left secret instructions for you, and this is kind of the jumping off point for what we call the main quest. At the end of it, at the end of the main quest, you will launch the nukes. That will be the end of the main story. The nukes are the game system, but they are also part of the main story, and that is what Todd Howard says. Now, Todd Howard goes on to say, the Overseer's quest is not something you can blaze through. It is very lengthy. It is a multi-part story that takes players all across West Virginia. This quest requires the player to be a very high level at its conclusion. And even if the player sticks to this quest, they will still receive optional tasks or side quests along the way, and will end up having a menu filled with missions that can be selected at any time. Given the nature of the game, you can jump ahead in parts and go back to others, Howard says. And of course, then he goes on to say something that we already knew, that quests are not just gained by NPCs. Players can find them embedded in holotapes, notes, terminals, and may even be gained by simply being in the proximity of a location. Now, this was a little bit of news. The project lead, Jeff Gardner, says that the development team didn't want players to simply run past great content. He said in Fallout 76, you will wander near something and you will be alerted of a quest like explore this mine. You don't actually have to click on something. All you have to do is get close to it. In the past, Jeff said, we thought this maybe was a little gamey, but we didn't want you to miss it in Fallout 76. We wanted you to find it. We were being very proactive, Jeff said, with this content. You will have a lot to do. The world is 4 times larger than Fallout 4's play space, and it is brought to life with 16 times the graphic fidelity. Given the vastness of the terrain players can explore, and this is Jeff still speaking, the points of interest are spread out, meaning you won't find near as many things crammed into one particular area. With that being said, there are more things to see and do than within any other Fallout before. Jeff goes on to say, it is a scary amount of stuff. Well, that is intriguing and exciting all in the same breath. Now, I don't know about things popping up just as you're walking around, but that is exciting for him to say there is a scary amount of stuff to do in Fallout 76. Jeff said almost everything you engage in nets you experience points. Well, that's pretty common. They reiterate that they do not want to put a level cap on the game, and if you remember, we talked about the leveling system within the perk system. If you don't remember that, go back and look at the how we simplified the perk system and the perk cards. I will put a link to that down in the description below as well. If you remember, it goes to level 50, and that is a cap with the points, but you continue to get cards after that. So the points do level at 50, but then you continue to get the perk cards after that number. And Todd Howard says there are literally hundreds of cards, and I do find it interesting in this article. They talked about one of the reasons they went with the perk cards is the cards are very flexible. And I will read his quote here. The cards allow us to be very flexible moving forward. We can release new perks with special events that we're going to be doing, and also have themed perks as well. So when they release a DLC or an expansion, or as he said, a special event, they can also make new perk cards. Whereas if you had a perk chart like they had in Fallout 4, you would have a strictly set thing that you could not change. He reminds us again that you can change your character at any time during the game, which is a very unique and wonderful thing in Fallout 76. You can change your gender, you can change your face, you can change anything at any time in Fallout 76. So that is a wonderful feature that they put into this game. Then there's a little section of Pete Hines playing solo, just to reassure the fans that you can play the game solo. Then it goes to a section about playing with friends, and that the game, of course, was designed to play with friends. You can play with up to 4 players, obviously. Now, the article says with your friends you can take on quests, you can build settlements, and you can engage in events. So what are these events? Well, it goes into them just a little bit. Events are something new to the Fallout experience. When you get near one, it starts broadcasting for help, Howard says. It's like a timed multiplayer quest. As you explore the world, you will be alerted of them occurring nearby, or you may see some appear on your map. Most are geared for teams, but some may require more players' coverage on an area. Bethesda doesn't want to reveal exactly what we can expect from the events. Of course not. But we do know some appear at random times and places, whereas others appear in specific places and at specific times. Once you discover one, you can fast travel to it. I'm guessing these events are probably things like there has been an outbreak of scorched beasts in this area. Go take care of them. Something like that. And this is something you can team up with 1 to 4 players or 1 to 3 players and go take care of. Jeff Garner did detail one of the smaller events that players could possibly come across. He said you will get a call about robots in distress, and you basically have to go out and escort them to various locations. If they live in the end, you get a reward. He said that's a random event that will spawn. Some people will join you or not. The robots have a lot of character, and they are sort of the levity, or the funniness, of the mission. You'll follow along, and they'll make little comments to you. Garner noted that events often give the best rewards. If you're looking for better loot and don't have a firm grasp of crafting yet, then you'll want to engage in events. That means becoming part of the multiplayer experience, as most can't be completed solo. So these events, he says, can't be completed solo, so you'll want to be a part of a group to get involved in these events. So there you go. There's something brand new, events, and now you know all about them. Yes, you do. I just told you all about them. Well, I told you all that Bethesda has told us about them. Anyway, okay, on to the next thing. The article goes on to talk about the Fallout experience being harsher in Fallout 76. Of course, we know it's more of a survival type because they've brought the weapons degrade now. We need to eat. We need to, the food spoils. Well, listen to what this article says. The Fallout experience is a bit harsher in terms of how the world is structured as well. Now listen to this. This is new. It is more of a zoned game and more level jumped than our previous stuff. Howard says some of the feedback we've gotten is, I'm just going to run across the map and then I died. It got hard. Todd Howard says there's a reason for that. We have higher level zones. That's not to say that the game won't factor in your level. If you enter a zone, things may spawn between level 40 and 60 depending on your level. If you enter that area at a lower level, well, you're in for a heck of a fight. That's not what he said, but I guess you know what he said. If you are in a group, the first player in sets the level ranges. If that player leaves the area, then the next player in changes the level. I think y'all are following me. If the first player in is level 50, guess what? The enemies are going to be high level as well. Bethesda says the game is divided into 6 regions, but wouldn't give specifics for each. But Todd Howard did say the cranberry bogs are really, really hard. Aha. Y'all go watch my video on the cranberry bogs. Ha ha ha. That is very interesting that the levels are zoned and they level to you. So the game is going to continue to level up to you, and they will level up to your group, and they're going to level up to whoever it appears is the leader of your group or whoever is at the front of your group. So remember that, and be careful if you're just going to run across the map. I love the sound of what Chris Meyer says here. He says, while teams are limited to just 4 players, you can technically play with other people on your system's list. You just can't group up with them in the game. He said, don't expect to see people everywhere. This is what I love. It is definitely not an MMO with hundreds of players running around the server. We have 24 players on one server. So there's confirmation. There's 24 players, if you were wondering. And it is 4 times the size of Fallout 4. There will be times that you see other players. Now listen to what he says. But we hope it is not something that is commonplace. Chris Meyer just said that it is not going to be common to see players as you're playing Fallout 76. That is huge. So now we know it is 24 players per server, and that it's not he does not want it to be common for you to see other humans. That is huge. That's huge news right there. And I love that. Thank you, Chris. That is wonderful news. Chris Meyer did say that they would talk about private servers at a later time, and he said it with a smile on his face, so I don't know what that means, but at least they're talking about it at a later time, so that's good news. Remember that Todd Howard said that it is a priority for them, that modding is a priority for them, but that it is a very difficult problem that they're going to have to make those private servers. I don't know enough about it to understand it, but at least they're still talking about it, and at least that is something they want to do for the fans. So I'm very happy about that. Now, in the next section, they go back over the murderer, that's hard to say, where if you kill someone that does not accept your challenge, your PvP challenge, they become a murderer, and then they have a bounty slapped on them and the red star placed on them. There's really nothing new in that segment. If you don't know about that, then please go watch my video on the PvP Made Simple. I will put that link down in the description below. So that's 3 videos now in the description below. Moving on. And okay, there's been a lot of confusion about the pacifist flag, and I'm going to read from Jeff Garner. I'm going to put it up on the screen so everybody can see it. When you're doing group events, we turn off PvP, Jeff Garner says. If all those random people are fighting against a giant monster, you don't want to get hit by a stray bullet and then be in PvP. We wanted to make it an intentional thing. If you accidentally hit someone with a stray bullet outside of these zones and don't want to trigger PvP, you can wave a pacifist flag to shut it down. Griefers also can't camp out in front of Vault 76 to pick off new players. The PvP gameplay is not available until you reach level 5. So he said some other things, but the pacifist flag, he says you can wave the pacifist flag to shut it down. The pacifist flag makes it where your bullets will not start the PvP or the challenge mode to other players. In other words, your bullet will not slap someone else saying, hey, let's fight. So you need to put up the pacifist flag to make sure your friendly fire does not start a PvP battle with your own group or someone there around your group, fighting the monster with you. He talks about the nukes in the next segment, and we've already talked about that, which is the main part of the quest. When the nukes do go off, after you get them and set them off, does set off a higher level area that gives you greater resources, so that's wonderful. Then he goes into the next area called Rebuilding America, which seems to be the theme of the game. The best way to survive in Fallout 76 is to build a settlement rich in workbenches, farming fields, and harvesters. This game has harvesters, has farming equipment. This game is going to be very crafting heavy. As I was told by some of the main guys at QuakeCon, this has so much more crafting in it than Fallout 4 has. And right here, Todd Howard says there is harvesting. We have harvesters and things like farming equipment and regenerating resources and machinery in Fallout 76. He says if you find a deposit of aluminum, you can harvest those resources. If you gain enough at one deposit and want to move your camp, of course, you can blueprint your camp and move it to the next one. So this is more huge news that Todd Howard lets us in on. We are actually going to be able to farm, to mine aluminum, to harvest things out of the ground. Major machinery pieces, major crafting things. And I don't think we've even scratched the surface of the crafting material that we're going to see in Fallout 76. Again, I believe there's a reason they haven't shown us full gameplay. I think they're holding back a lot of surprises, and they're just kind of trickling out information. And I think they're kind of doing it with a smile on their face, because there is going to be a lot, as I said, a lot of surprises coming. And the crafting is one of those. So, as Todd says, there's going to be harvesting, machinery. Oh, wow. That just sounds great, if you're into crafting. Now, again, many of the things that we've already heard over and over, I'm skipping over, like you don't have to fear what happens when you log out, your camp goes with you, all that. So, this video would be miles long if I did that. Now, here is some neat stuff, though, with the building cooperatively. We know that you can, it was brought out last time, that you can pair up and build cooperatively. But listen to this. You can connect settlements with everyone in your party to make larger spaces, although each player needs to be online to have their part of the settlement appear in the world. This is what Chris Meyer said. We had a test one time where 12 people built their camps next to each other and created an enormous city. So 12 people lined up and made an enormous city. If you want to know how many can line up together, which is kind of crazy. Each player can build one home base, but there are also public workshop spaces. Now, this is something totally different that you can come across. This is what Todd Howard was saying. They will almost feel like event zones. It is a space that you can take over that has a lot of supplies. You and the people on your team can build there. Now, this is a gameplay with resource generation, and there are enemy waves that will attack these spots. This camp is a temporary territory, however. When you leave, another team can roll in to claim it as their own. So there are these home base territories that are, it's kind of like an event place where you can go and build a base, and enemies regenerate there, and you can try to defend it. But it's a temporary thing. It's just to play a little mini game is what it is. So it's a little side mini game that you can play. The article goes on to say that your camp can also be a haven for other players that are not on your team. Although Bethesda is still trying to figure out exactly how this will play out, you can walk up to someone else's camp and harvest their plants. Now, you cannot go through their stashes, but you can get some of their things that regenerate. Now, right now, it's a crime to take fruits and vegetables, and you'll find yourself in trouble. That may change by the time the game launches. One more interesting thing, and I had to read this a few times to see what they were saying. One thing you will not have to worry about this time is the power armor. In Fallout 4, if it ran out of juice, you had to climb out of it, leave it, and return with a new battery. The power armor is now treated like an inventory item rather than a vehicle. You still get in and out of it, but you can now pick it up. So power armor, you can put it in your inventory now. So that's another interesting change in Fallout 76. That was the highlights of the article from Game Informer. Now, again, the link is down below, and you can read the article and see, but that was the new things that are in the article. A lot of the old things that we have covered over and over and over here on the KingFanMan channel is in there. I did like how the article ended. It ended with war. War never changes, but with Fallout 76, it is drastically different. Todd Howard is quoted as saying at the end of this article that normally by the end of the cycle that they are sick of the game that they are developing, but with Fallout 76, they still cannot wait to play it. So that bodes well for Fallout 76 and us. If the development team and Todd Howard himself are still very excited to play it, then I think we should be as well. I want to thank you so much for getting your Bethesda fix right here at the King's Corner. Again, as always, please comment down below. I know we covered a lot today, so comment down below what you think about all that Game Informer covered and maybe what they didn't cover, and ask your questions as well about Fallout 76. Please also go down and look at all my links below. We have Discord if you want to talk more about Fallout 76 or all things Bethesda. And if you can, and if you're able, think about becoming a Patreon and supporter of the KingFanMan channel. That link is down below as well. And if you're not a subscriber to this channel, why not? It's free. All you got to do is hit that button. Come on, take your frustrations out on that button. Just pow, just hit it. All you got to do is hit it. I am the KingFanMan, and a scary place of Fallout 76 is coming out very soon, because I'm going to go right back and finish that video right now. I am the KingFanMan. I'll see you guys later. Bye.